Thanks for joining us again as we delve into the second half of TVC Breakfast this Wednesday. The National Assembly organized the National Dialogue on the local government autonomy issue, as well as regarding the constitutional amendment process. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajudeen, says the Parliament is determined to grant full and operational autonomy to local government councils. National Assembly correspondent Joke Adisa has more.
The July 11, 2024 landmark judgment of the Supreme Court granting financial autonomy to local governments continues to be a reference point for good governance. This national dialogue is in continuation of the House Committee on Constitution Review's efforts to consult widely and build consensus among those that matter. State and federal lawmakers, traditional rulers, women groups, local and international social partners are here to contribute to the quest for good governance and development at the local government areas.
The local governments in Nigeria continue to suffer from the lack of development of its institution and its ability to deliver on citizens' expectations of development. Speaker,
House of Representatives and its deputies say all hands must be on deck to reverse the sorry state of governance at the local level. They call for the understanding of state governors and houses of assembly to achieve a local government system that is robust and will bring an end to insecurity.
We must confront the disgraceful poor conduct of elections into the council. We must find a way of instilling transparency, a way of instilling fairness, a way of instilling openness, the conduct of elections into local government.
The task before us today is both ambitious and achievable to chart a clear and actionable path towards local government autonomy.
The Conference of Speakers and the Nigeria Governors Forum agree on the need to enact laws that empower local governments and ensure accountability.
Local government remain pivotal to delivering essential services, fostering community participation, and ensuring inclusive development.
That a well-structured autonomy with mutually aligned implementation framework will not only drive accountability and efficiency in resource management, but will also catalyze the sustainable development goals at the subnational level.
The dialogue session calls for the scrapping of the State Independent Electoral Commission, CX, and advocates a zero-party system to lessen partisanship and guarantee the credibility of local government elections. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
Right, so joining us from our Abuja studio is former Executive Chairman of Cairo Local Government Council in Nasarawa State, Akala Samuel. Good morning and welcome to TVC Breakfast.
Yeah, good morning. It's my pleasure to join you this morning.
Right. Thanks a lot for joining us. So on this subject of local government autonomy, despite the Supreme Court's decision on this subject matter, there is still the need for conversations, as we just saw at the National Assembly, conversations on how to bring about the true implementation of financial autonomy for local governments in Nigeria. What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, it's becoming a worrisome development. You know, you will recall that I've been part of this conversation over the years. Even when in July, when this landmark judgment was delivered, I had a conversation too around these issues with your station. That judgment resonated very, very well in the minds and hearts of Nigerians. Some of us called Mr. President and his government very, very high for hearkening to the yearning of Nigerians. But you see, as an individual, I am becoming very, very worried. I am truly not happy this morning, speaking on this matter, that a judgment of a court, not just less a court, the highest court in the land that was delivered in July, by this month, we are talking about 4 months And nothing has been done about it. Every month, I speak to my chairman of my local government to find out, have you received your direct allocation? And the answer is no. So, it is becoming an issue that Nigerians are becoming so worried that the federal government, who went to court to say, look, let the right thing be done in terms of local government councils in Nigeria receiving their funds, because the state joint account hasn't worked, the resources meant for local government does not get to them. Now, the same federal government who went to court got judgment. The same federal government is in possession of these resources. You know that it is the federal government who is saddled with the responsibility of collecting all revenues and accordingly allocate same according to the laid down formula to the 3 tiers of government. The same federal government, since July, have not been able to ensure that these monies are paid directly to the 774 local government. For me, this is truly a worrisome development. And we cannot live in a country where the highest court in the land declares that this is what should be done, and the federal government in itself, who went to court, is now undermining the judgment of the highest court in the land. So, in my mind, I will say that if the federal government will refuse deliberately to implement a judgment, valid judgment of the Supreme Court, and then I wonder, what is the place of rule of law in our polity? What is the place of rule of law in our country? So for me, this is a bad precedent and a very dangerous signal to Nigerians to say that, look, is it true that what we hear out there, that the states are lobbying Mr. President not to implement that judgment? Is this becoming a reality? So for me, this is a worrisome development. I was in the national dialogue at Transcope, and Senator Eta Enang made it loudly clear that you do not need a gestation period to be able to implement judgment of a competent court of jurisdiction, no less a court than the highest court in the land. You do not need to negotiate with anybody to be able to implement the judgment or execute the judgment of the Supreme Court. And of course, what we expected of the federal government, particularly the Attorney General of the Federation, the Accountant General of the Federation, and the Federal Ministry of Finance, is to get in touch with the 774 local government who have their umbrella body in Algon to say, look, guys, submit your account details where these monies will be paid. We expected that in not less than 1 week, the next fact, this money should have hit the accounts of the local government. And we have the EFCC waiting. They are looking aloof. The ICPC are there. The NFIU are there. They have not gone out to say, look, why have you not obeyed this financial autonomy that has been granted local government? So this is a worrisome development for me. I am not having this conversation as a happy Nigerian this morning because this judgment of the highest court of the land has not been implemented.
Honorable Samuel, I understand your sentiments in all of this. Of course, looking at the fact that you're a former executive chairman of Karo LGC in Nasarawa State and all, your sentiment is quite heightened, and we understand that. But do we also blame the federal government rather than put some blames on some persons in the civil service, despite the fact that the federal government has given the directive? The civil servants have been there for quite a long time. And so there have been allegations in the past of civil servants involved in corrupt practices and all of that. Do we point fingers at the civil servants who, despite the fact that the president have given the directive, assigned the bill into law, has allowed for local government elections, and these people have been duly elected, we still have civil servants who do whatever they can to truncate the law and, of course, to ensure that these monies do not go directly to the local governments?
Well, look, whether you talk of civil servant, you talk of federal government, we're referring to one person. Okay? So the federal government has federal MDAs. As far as I'm concerned on this matter, the Accountant General of the Federation is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that these monies are transferred directly since July of this year. So if by any reason a civil servant for that matter would decide to sabotage and undermine the judgment of the highest court of the land, second, the directive of Mr. President that this judgment must be complied with, and nothing has been done in 4 months, it shows that there is a conspiracy in the system. There are people who supervises this civil servant. There is the finance minister, there is the Attorney General of the Federation, who should have taken so much interest in ensuring that this judgment was accordingly and immediately adhered to and implemented without hesitation. Look, to say that this money is warehoused in the federal government possession calls for concern, because we cannot be able to sit here and shift the blame to the civil servants who are just yes sir civil servants. They will tell you they act according to instructions. So if instructions have not been given to them by their superior to say, look, why do you keep transferring, why do you still transfer this money to the state joint account? You know, so it means that there is a conspiracy in the system to sabotage the judgment of the Supreme Court. So for me, I do not think that a civil servant will be asked, for instance, the Accountant General of the Federation, who sees on their location, who sees in fact to ensure that these monies are allocated according to the formula for revenue allocation to 3 tiers of government, would decide on his own to unilaterally say, because I am the Accountant General of the Federation and I am a civil servant, I will not send this money directly to the 3 tiers of government, directly to the accounts of 774 local government. For me, I do not think that is a reason for these monies not to have been sent to the 774 local government. Today, let me say that if this judgment sacked a governor, the next morning, that governor is out of office. But you see that even the elections to local government councils, some states have not been able to conduct it. But the judgment is clear that you only pay monies to only local government councils with elected officials. That is clear. And the order is with immediate effect.
So they are elected local government officials, and these monies have not gotten to their account since after the elections. What do you think they can do? Because we are discussing this, but the people at the grassroots might not understand or might not get a hint of this kind of situation happening at the federal level. What can the local government chairman do to ensure that they give the people in their various local government the needed information as regards the local government, the funds coming in and the autonomy that has been signed?
Well, this speaking here, even myself speaking here, I cannot say what is the reason that these monies have not been sent to the local government. So the chairman, you will expect that they will not know the reason, because the federal government or the Accountant General of the Federation or the Attorney General of the Federation or the Minister of Finance hasn't come out to say what is delaying these payments to the 774 local government. So we must be able to exonerate the local government chairman in this regard, because they will have no explanation to give to their citizens. The highest they could say is that we're still awaiting payment from the federal government. As it is today, these monies are still paid to the state joint account, where the state governments, under the leadership of their governors, decide what happens to those funds. For me, this is a complete affront on our judicial system. This is a complete aberration to our legal jurisprudence, because if the highest court of the land, and it is the federal government who went to court, and this judgment hasn't been complied with, and nobody has said anything, I expect also that the EFCC and NIFIU, ICPC should step in immediately in this direction, visit the Accountant General of the Federation Office to know why these monies have not been transferred to the 774 local government. Where they are culpable, they should be held to account. We cannot live in a system as if we live in a banana republic where officials of government would decide and cherry pick which judgment of court to comply with. This is not
Honorable Akala, let's put you on hold.
And it's unfortunate.
We'll continue this conversation after the break. Please hold on and stay with us.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr Cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic. And enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
Hi, this is Dr. Abiola Salami, the world-class performance strategist, inviting all business leaders and career professionals to start 2025 on the right foot with forward-thinking strategies and powerful connections at the New Year Kickoff Summit 2025. Visit www.kickoffsummit.com to register. Until I see you there, keep rocking your world like a champion.
Thanks a lot for joining us again on TVC Breakfast. And we've been speaking with Honorable Akala Samuel, a former Karo local government chairman in Nasarawa State. He joins us from our Abuja studio, and the subject has been on implementing once and for all financial autonomy for local governments, especially in the light of about the 3-month-old Supreme Court judgment that spoke to this issue. Honorable Samuel Akala, thank you very much for staying with us. And to put some more perspective to enhance our conversation, the federal government has since reiterated that there is no moratorium on the implementation of the Supreme Court judgment, but says that what it wants to achieve in convening the committee between the federal government, governors, and local government, the local government body, is to get some form of clarity regarding how to implement the judgment so that there will not be doom, especially as forecast by governors such as Charles Soludo of Anambra State, who says that if this judgment is not well implemented, those who are supposed to benefit from it will be shortchanged again. So, and now we hear that they've signed the agreement. So, in terms of corruption, in terms of removing the local governments from undue influence of governors, do you understand this perspective, and what would you like to see moving forward?
For me, this explanation is unacceptable by me. And look, you do not need to negotiate a judgment of court. You do not need the opinion of anybody. The Supreme Court had ruled and ordered. It ordered for immediate payments directly to local government. It ordered for perpetual injunction by any state agency from tampering or managing or having anything to do with local government funds. What we expect is, first, obey the court judgment, ensure that these monies are paid. You can have whatever meeting you want to have. But look, to say that you refuse to obey court judgment and that you are having some kind of negotiations, are you negotiating the judgment to see whether you will implement it in total or you will implement part of it? And if the federal government is telling Nigerians that there is no moratorium period for this implementation, why has the judgment not been implemented? It means the federal government impliedly created a moratorium period. Otherwise, this judgment was delivered on the 11th of July. By 11th of this month, it will be 4 months. This judgment has not been complied with in any way. You do not need to sign any agreement whatsoever to implement the judgment of a competent court, even a court, a highest court of the land. You do not need that. And for Charles Soludo, who, with due respect, say that if it is not well implemented, that it will have it will not benefit the people who is supposed to benefit, I take his words with a pinch of salt, because this is one governor who has gone ahead, one, to conduct election where, of course, the usual election that happens in states, where his party wins everything, councillorship and chairmanship. This same governor went to enact a state local government law to the effect that when these monies are paid to the local government directly, within 2 days, this money should be transferred to a certain special account that they call State Economic Team account for the implementation of universal project. For me, this is clearly to say that Mr. Governor of Anambra State is not willing to allow the local government to be financially independent, to say, look, the state has its own allocation of funds, the federal government has its own allocation of funds, and the local government has. Why is it that the state governments are so much interested in what happens to the funds of the local government? If you talk about corruption, corruption is endemic at the federal level, corruption is endemic at the state level. So we are not saying that the local government are also going to toe the path of the other levels of government. But look, this money belongs to them. As a matter of legal necessity, implement the judgment first, and then you have whatever negotiation you want to have. It's now at the discretion of local government chairmen to know whether they are going to sit to whatever form that will enable some levels of government to interfere with their operation or their finances, knowing fully well that local government chairmen in Nigeria have no immunity. So send their monies to them. Whoever misses. All
right, Honorable, let me quickly ask. Right. We have less than 5 minutes left. Let me quickly ask, about the impact of forthcoming elections. Yes, some states have conducted elections, local government elections, I mean to say, but then we are also having states that have fixed January, February, around that time to conduct their own LG polls. Won't this be a clog in your desire for the actualization of local government autonomy now, in light of this forthcoming polls?
Well, that can never be any form of clock at all. Those states are clearly saying that they cannot obey the judgment of Supreme Court, because the judgment clearly stipulates that. And the Constitution, Section 7, Sub 1, clearly said that it is only a democratically system of government that is guaranteed under the Constitution at the local government. Therefore, any state after the judgment that has refused to conduct election, there is no problem. The judgment clearly states that any local government without democratically elected officials cannot access its funds. It means that the FAC, the Federation Allocation Committee, should not send monies to to local government without democratically elected local government councils. If there are states in Nigeria who still fix election to local government councils for January next year, 6 months after the judgment of Supreme Court, it clearly states that those states are determined to undermine the judgment of the highest court of the land. So that should not be a clock in the wheel of progress. All we expect that the Attorney General of the Federation should go after people who are maintaining a posture of court contempt. As far as I'm concerned, that is court contempt for me. So if you refuse to obey judgment of court, there are two implications. One, you undermine the judgment of court, which is by implication undermining the laws of our land. And then number two, those local government councils will not have access to their federation account, to their allocations, because the judgment states that those monies belonging to local government without elected officials will be warehoused at the federation account until local elections are conducted in those areas. And to ask and to add, what is in this election? These elections are done by the governor. They select the people they want to select. So what is holding them back from conducting this election?
All right. Honorable Akala Samuel, we would just end the conversation now. We thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this subject. Honorable Akala Samuel, the former executive chairman of Karo Local Government Council in Nasarawa State. Many thanks again for your time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.